Hello everybody, this is your English teacher and this is my second part to my PowerPoint presentation on William Shakespeare. You remember I told you about his life, the life of the bard, England's genius, okay. Now let's move to his works and let's say something about all that he has done in his lifetime. Okay, first of all, we have to admit that Shakespeare was a genius, and he was a genius for many reasons. For example, his use of language. As a matter of fact, he created visual worlds for theatre audiences through language. And he created new words and phrases that we still use today. Not only English people or English-speaking people, but some of his phrases, some of his expressions have been translated into other languages and are in use also, for example, in Italian. He employed irony, imagery meaning the capacity, the ability through language to offer visions, to offer a visualization of something, a kind of photograph or a painting through language. Rhythm and other literary devices, other literary mechanisms that he mastered. And as a consequence, he established through these means atmosphere, character and intrigue. Now, when we speak of Shakespearean drama, his works, or drama in general, but especially Shakespearean drama, you have to imagine that few things were used on the stage. There was no scenery, and there were few objects that were used on stage. Remember, the name of these objects is props. But there were very few things, and also dresses were used, costumes, special costumes were used on stage, but there was no scenery, so the audience had to imagine, for example, if the scene was taking place in a castle or near the seaside, on an exotic island, in a garden, and how can the audience imagine? How could they imagine this? Through languages, through the lines and the words that actors pronounced. And so, of course, the playwright, the person who was in charge for writing the things that were performed on stage, had to be a very good writer with a great ability of using the right word and the right expression, the right adjectives to suggest the scenery to an audience that did not see any scenery on stage. And Shakespeare was a master in this. Do you know that some of the words and expressions that we still use today come from Shakespeare? We can't say that he invented all of these expressions, even if he invented some. But of course, we can say that maybe he was the one and the first who used these expressions in his plays and who wrote them down, okay, so that now we have the trace of these expressions, and so we say that Shakespeare gave these expressions and these sayings to the world. So let's have a look at some of these sayings, expressions that the bard created, or at least that he wrote down for the first time. For example, love is blind. We still use that also in Italian, l'amore è cieco. Love is blind and lovers cannot see. And this is taken from one of his plays. Another one, all that glitters isn't gold. Non è tutto oro ciò che luccica. O non è oro ciò che luccica. Non sempre oro ciò che luccica. So this is another example of a Shakespearean expression that has arrived also to Italian. Break the ice. Okay, I won't translate that. It's very easy. And we use this expression quite commonly in, I suppose, any kind of language. So to start a conversation from zero, to try to find something to start a conversation. Wear one's heart on one's sleeve. This is a typical English expression, meaning if you could wear your heart on your sleeve, on your arm, this would mean that you have no mysteries, you have no secrets, that you are open-hearted, okay? And so you have no secrets to hide. All's well that ends well. This is the name of one of these plays, and if you translate that in Italian, you can easily understand that it's an expression we still use today, also in our language. Clothes make the man. We use it in another expression, l'abito non fa il monaco. This is all the way around. Sometimes the way in which you dress, the way in which you use a clothes or the choice of clothing can reveal something about you and your person. It's Greek to me. We say this in Italian, but not with reference to Greek. We say per me è arabo. So it's a phrase, a sentence that in English is used when you don't understand anything of what you are listening to or what you are reading. So you say, it's Greek to me. And this comes from one of Shakespeare's plays. Also, why? Then the world's mine oyster. Okay, this is also said in Italian, il mondo è la mia ostrica, meaning a situation in which we find ourselves in comfort, we are completely relaxed, and we feel we are part of that situation, which looks quite natural to us. And this also comes from one of Shakespeare's plays. And last but not least, this is a typical expression we also use in sport, fair play. Think of, for example, of football. There is also a prize which is given each year to the football player that has distinguished himself for his fair play. And it also is a Shakespearean expression. So Shakespeare wrote for the theatre, he wrote comedies, he wrote tragedies, and he wrote historical plays. Let's have a look at him as a comedian, so as an author of comedies. You know, comedies are plays that have a happy ending and that have irony and that are fun to look at. Shakespeare's comedies usually include disguise, so wearing costumes, maybe characters dress up like another character, so you have qui pro quo situations. Frustrated love, which of course will have its victory. Mistaken identity, which is a consequence of disguise. Marital and romantic misunderstandings, so also quarrels, fightings between lovers. And these comedies usually end in multiple marriages, so we have not only one happy ending, we have more than one happy ending. Sometimes we have multiple marriages, which are the symbol, the sign of a happy ending. The comedies trace the passage of young people out of their parents' control and into marriage, into the adult world. So usually the characters of these comedies are young people that are in search for love and find the love of their lives, and so they become adult and they get married. This is a list of the most Shakespeare's comedies. I don't want you to learn the title of all of them, but just keep in mind some of them which are very, very famous also in our country. For example, The Taming of the Shrew, I know that this name won't tell you anything, but if I translate it into Italian, it becomes La Bisbetica Domata, which is a very nice comedy. A Midsummer Night's Dream, Sogno di una notte di mezz'estate. The Merchant of Venice, which is considered here as a comedy, but we are going to study that, and it's not really a typical comedy. It has a bitter taste, and we will see that. Much Ado About Nothing, which is also a saying, an expression typical of Shakespeare that we have also in Italian, Molto rumore per nulla. And then all the other comedies that he wrote. He wrote so many, The Merry Wives of Windsor, Le Allegre Comari di Windsor, etc. All's Well That Ends Well, Tutto è bene ciò che finisce bene. So these are all the comedies that we think Shakespeare wrote. But Shakespeare was also an incredible, talented, tragic playwright, and maybe he is more famous for his tragedies than for his comedies. We can compare his tragedies to the classical tragedies coming from the Greek and Latin traditions. You see here on the left, I'll put in Greek and Latin classical tragedies, and here Shakespeare tragedies. In Greek and Latin tragedies, the protagonist acts against inexorable destiny. He can't escape his destiny. In Shakespeare, there is a real balance between fate, destiny, and human choices. So men can control their choices. And these choices are based on characters' flaws. Flaws are defective. Human beings are in control of their destiny. They can choose. The fact that it's that they choose the wrong way. In Greek and Latin tragedies, the action is limited to one place and one day, just like Aristotle used to say. But in Shakespeare, this limitation is broken. So the rule is broken, and so there is no limit to place and time unities. In Greek and Latin tragedies, you have a turning point, a moment in which the action takes a twist and changes radically. And it is where the goals, the objectives of the tragic hero seem within reach. While in Shakespeare, the catastrophe at the end spells disaster for the tragic hero, responsible for his own fall, although his plan was noble. Sometimes his heroes are tragic heroes. They are noble, they have good ideas, but then they change their mind and they choose the wrong way. That's where catastrophe happens. These are the titles of his most famous tragedies, and I'm sure you know some of them. I chose the most important ones. I suppose the most important ones written in yellow. They are all famous for me, but I suppose that these in yellow you should remember. Romeo and Juliet, of course, Julius Caesar, Hamlet, Othello. This is the tragedy of jealousy. King Lear, Macbeth, the tragedy of power, of greed, and then all the others. We are going to study some of them. And this is Benedict Cumberbatch. You know, this actor is a very famous English actor, and he's specialized in Shakespearean roles. And I'm also Shakespeare the historian. Shakespeare's history plays are based on serious records, like the Tudors Chronicles. He really wrote about reality, and the civil wars between the houses of York and Lancaster, for example, the War of the Roses. These plays gave a portrait of the nation as a whole, so they speak of England as a nation. And they were part of a process by which people came to see themselves as belonging to England, rather than to families, households, or local lords. So we can say that thanks to these historical plays, we have in England the development or the birth of a new feeling, the concept of nation, okay? Because English people, when they went to see these historical plays, which they liked very much, they felt very English, and they understood the importance of their civilization. So they felt strongly patriotic, and they really appreciated their history and their kings, the most important monarchs of their history. Okay, so these are the most important Shakespeare's history plays, and they are divided into two tetralogies. Tetralogies meaning a group of 4 plays. The first group, Henry VI, parts 1, 2, and 3, and Richard III. This is the first group of historical plays, and the second part made up of Richard II, Henry IV, parts 1 and 2, and Henry V. Now I'm going to stop here, because this is what I wanted to tell you about Shakespeare as a dramatist and a playwright, and then we'll see something about him as a poet. So thank you for watching up to now, and see you on my future and next lesson. Bye bye.